All right, guys, this is the Treffen Drive. This is from Washington, well, basically Canada, Canadian border, all the way down to Imperial Beach, which is right near Mexico. Um, and I did the portion from San Francisco, so pardon, there's some water on the windshield because in this portion it clears up a little bit later. There was a lot of fog, and we're going to go across the Golden Gate Bridge here shortly after we go through this little meetup. But this is just the driving portion. You can see the Volkswagens in front of me, and it's all classic Volkswagen, so it's kind of cool. In this video, I'm also going to tell you guys about some of the things that were happening along the way, people that were there that were pretty amazing. It was really nice to meet a lot of you guys that were there that are subscribers, and it was fun. You know, some of you guys came in portions and then left in other portions, and other guys came in other portions and left in other portions. So it's kind of the Treffen is kind of a drive where people kind of, they call it Treffen because Treffen means meeting, and people come in and do portions of the drive. All the information on it is posted on Airhead Parts Facebook. They also have a little web page for it, so you can find out where the Treffen stops are, so you can kind of meet up and do a portion of it or drive the whole thing and know where your stop is next. So this is the Golden Gate Bridge. We're going across a little bit fast here. There's a lot of fog and it started to clear up, but it was kind of cool. We could see the towers on this portion, so that was kind of nice. But this kind of gives you an idea of what the drive is like. I think I filmed it all the way down to near Airhead Parts. I'm not sure when I stopped. I was having some difficulty with keeping the cameras all charged. Had to stop and fiddle with things along the way while I'm driving. A little difficult to do, but it was kind of cool to see the drive, how beautiful it is, and how much fun it was. There were some pretty amazing things in this drive. I'll tell you, there was a guy came from Colorado in his 64 Carmagia. He restored a lot of it himself. He owned the car for 30 years. He also owned it in Delray Beach, Florida. And so you can imagine it had some rust, and did a lot of the repair. I think he did a lot of it himself. He did have some help from different places. But anyway, a Carmagia convertible, 64, sea blue. Drove it from Colorado. He drove all the way to Washington in it, and when he went to Washington, he didn't know that there between Spokane, if you've never been, I think it's Highway 90. I'm pretty sure it's 90. You go from Spokane to Seattle area. I call it Greater Seattle area, which includes like Richmond and all the neighboring cities. It just is one big city pretty much. But if you drive across there, it's pretty much desert, and he was not ready for desert, and he was kind of like tripping out when he got through there. And I was talking to him about it, and I go, hey, did you realize there's desert? And he goes, oh yeah, that's where my car got hot. It kind of got hot when he was going through there. And he said he had to keep on putting on, getting his head wet, stopping, put his hat in the ice chest, and then, you know, put his shirt in the ice chest and wring it out, and then put it back on. Kind of an interesting, you know, cooling system he had to drive through there. I could imagine going through there with no air. It is pretty warm going through. I think it's 100 plus when I was out there once. So anyway, so there's another interesting story that came along. There was a woman who drove a restored 67 Bug. Really gorgeous restoration on it. And she drove, she's my age, she's in her 50s, late 50s I'd say, and she drove all the way, the whole thing, all the way Washington, all the way from Port Angeles, Washington, all the way to Imperial Beach. And she did finally at Imperial Beach barely kind of limped in with a broken clutch cable. The clutch cable was starting to fray. So things like that kind of happen along the way, which makes it interesting. It's never a boring thing. In fact, I remember the Carmagia, the 64 Carmagia, they came from Colorado. His condenser went out. He goes, I think there's something wrong with my coil. And we're sitting there in the parking lot, and I go, well, yeah, I doubt the coil is bad. Usually they're not bad. I said, it's probably the condenser. And he goes, oh, it's new. And I go, Well, but it's new. That's the problem. If it was really, really old, it'd probably be good. But it's one of the newer Bosch, which they don't last very long. If I've been telling you guys that, I always go to pointless. But he had a 6-volt car, so I don't think you could go to pointless anymore. Um, but yeah, it was the condenser. He changed it out, and after that it ran perfect. No more. He was just getting like I kept on hearing this ahead of me, and going through all the bridges and tunnels. I'd hear this bang bang, like the big old like firecrackers going off, and that was him. So it made it pretty fun, listening to the bangs and pops going through the bridges. And he said, "Yeah, I kind of like the extra noise going on. It made it a little more interesting." But I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't think I'd want to drive it like that for too much longer, because it's, you never want to know when it's just going to go completely out." So anyway, that was an interesting thing that happened. We also had in the group was the electric bus, and it worked out pretty good. I mean, there is some limitations on range on those things, so it gets a little trickier to do a long distance drive like that, especially because it only has slow chargers, which is like 4 kilowatts per hour. And it has, let's say, I don't know what size the battery is in that thing. It might be 100 kilowatts, I'm saying. So it takes a long time to charge it at one of those level 2 stations, or you have to have a 50 amp breaker at like a campsite that he can plug in the one that he had. So it was a little tricky, a little bit of challenge there, but he got through it okay, and seemed to work out pretty good. So that was going on along the way. And I remember one point we were in San Luis Obispo, and hey, it's kind of frustrated because he missed his. They actually had a campsite. The only one with a campsite with a 50 amp breaker was in where was that? Morro Bay. So he was past where he should have gotten, because he didn't put it in the GPS right away, and he wasn't thinking. He thought it was going to be in San Luis Obispo. So I stopped with him on the side of the road, and he's like, "Oh man, I don't know what to do. I got this thing." I said, "Well, let me just look on Google. Where's a level 4 charger, or level 2 J 7112, I think it is, 7112 charger near me." And we found one, and then went there. And that's where I kind of got a little bit educated about the charging of things. And that I found out later that they do charge you for parking at some of them. So you really got to kind of watch whether it's got, you pay for the charge, and then you also pay for parking on top of that. It gets kind of expensive at some of those places. So you got to watch out for those things. There's all those tricky things to know on those for charging those cars. So, but it was educational, and I learned a lot. So it was worth it. So anyway, we got the thing charged, and he got back over to the campsite. Then we went from there. All right, so another thing that happened, or was kind of cool, is all the stops along the way. It seems like everywhere you stop, there's a different story to hear. Another person you meet from somewhere far away that came out to do the Treffen. There was somebody there from Texas as well. That was pretty impressive. I think they had it was a Vanagon that they drive, and I think they've done it several times. They come up from Texas and do the whole thing all the way down. So, and I don't believe the air conditioning in it works. So it's a later model water cooled one, but I don't think the air conditioning does work at this time. They were saying, and they're not afraid to go through that desert. When I was a kid, I remember going through, with no air conditioning. I mean, my parents would never put air in the car. My dad always had this big fear of overheating, and unless it was a factory air, and then he wouldn't get it. And even in the factory air, he didn't like to do that because they charged a lot more for the car. Back then it was like $1,000 for air conditioning, and he just wasn't going to do that. Especially, I remember when the cars we were buying were like, our Chevy Nomad wagon was like $3,000, I want to say, back in the 70s, in the early 70s, 71. And yeah, it was kind of crazy that they were that much money for back then for air conditioning. So my dad just wouldn't buy it. So I was used to go to the desert, but I certainly wouldn't want to do it today at my age. I still don't know how my dad did it back then, but you know, I wouldn't want to do it myself. And then in an air cooled car, I'd be kind of worried, especially at like 115. You know, that's pushing it pretty hard for that engine. You know, it's already running, you know, marginally hot, and they have a much higher running temperature than air cooled cars do than regular water cooled engines do. So yeah, it gets, you know, that engine's going to be up probably in the 300s, pretty high, and that's pretty hot. So you know, things can go wrong. So anyway, I think I was worried about it. I don't know. If you're the Colorado guy, you can make a comment below. I'm just wondering if he made it back to Colorado. I mean, from Imperial Beach back to Colorado is pretty much, there isn't much else other options other than go straight through the desert. So there's desert. We were talking about maybe Highway 8 to the 85 going through up missing Phoenix, and then going up Highway 17, and then going to right near Flagstaff. And I think there's some roads that kind of stay up in the mountains he was talking about staying in that go up that way, but I don't really know those roads at all, so I couldn't tell you the numbers or anything like that. The other ones I do know pretty well. California, you know, I pretty much know the roads, but up there, that's some areas that I just don't drive. I haven't been, you know. California, some of Nevada, pretty much, Washington, a lot of Florida, North and South Carolina, Georgia. Those are states that I've driven a lot of miles. I've driven rural roads, a lot of them, little towns, and places most of the people that live in those cities or states have never been. I've probably driven through. But anyway, back to the video. What we were showing here is this Highway 1. I had little segments of it. I was trying to avoid when it got too really bad fog, that I would shut the camera off and start again. So there's some places of it I don't have, but it is kind of fun to see everything go by so quickly and kind of see the Volkswagens all in line. When I was going up through here, through the canyon, I know I was behind some people, and I thought, hey, I had like two people in front of me, and then there was a large gap between us and the next group ahead. They kind of divided up now into like two different speeds, and this was like the slow speed group I was in. They kind of do in the low 50s, 45 to 55 area. My bus will do whatever I can hold on to the steering wheel and do. So I decided to pass, and I dropped it down to the third, and my third, because the gearing, transmission gearing, does about 65. Dropped it down to third and went up to 65, dropped it back into fourth, passed the last driver at 75 on Highway 1. She said she was scared to death. I was going to ask her if I scared her a little when I passed her, because I couldn't remember who the driver was. And she says, she found me later. She goes, "Oh, that was you that passed me. I remember. That scared the pants off me. It was so much. You were going so fast." And I was like, "Nah, sorry about that." But I wanted to do is catch the next group so that I could film them getting in, and then ended up hitting some traffic, and they ended up catching up to me before I was able to actually do the filming. So it was kind of a bummer. But yeah, that was my goal, is to kind of catch up to the next group, get on the end of that, film them ahead of me. I think I did get some of that in this video. I'm not sure. But as we're going down Highway 1, kind of winding through the hills, so it was kind of neat. I can't tell where I'm at in this. Yeah. So in this portion of the video, I believe I'm in between San Francisco and Pacific Grove somewhere. I don't think we've even come up on Santa Cruz yet. I think that's the area we are in. So it's kind of scenic there. It's a little flatter and smoother, straighter than between after Pacific Grove, going from Carmel down to Morro Bay area, it gets kind of windy in there. So that's actually the next day. It's going to look like it blends all into one day, but I believe this was 2 days portion. This might, I can't really see the screen I'm looking at. It's pretty small. Let me see if there's a way I can make it bigger. I don't know how to do it while I'm doing this edit. But yeah, we went all the way down through Santa Cruz, went through the little city there. I don't know if I had that on film. I'm not sure if we were stopping there, or if we just cruised through. I think we just drove through it. I've been there many times, and that's such a cool little city. So nice and cool there all the time. I believe this is where the next day starts, that this is actually after Carmel. So if you notice the scenery change, I'm not sure when I changed it. But anyway, there's a lot of little clips. I just kind of put them all together, and I kept cutting them off because I found sometimes if I don't do that, I'll actually run too long of a clip, and then I'll end up not be recording or something like that. I found out later that I'm not really recording it, and then I didn't have any footage. So it's better if I have small clips. So that's what I do. But yeah, it was really cool. I met a couple from Sausalito. They also do the drive. Came all the way down to the beach. At the very end, I don't know, for a limited time, I don't know when they're going to not do it anymore, because the guys had the property up for sale, I suppose. I don't really know the details. But they had I would say probably a half-acre lot right on the ocean that they get, and we can actually sit there and camp in it. Pretty amazing. That was, if you guys missed out on that part, that was pretty cool. And I did not camp. I didn't bring my camper, so you can do either one. You can go to the campgrounds that they have on there and camp, or you can, I mean, I'm sure you could probably even do some sort of, if you're pretty stingy, you could probably figure out how to do it at like whatever they call that, boondocking. You could probably do that somehow if you wanted to. I don't know. It just depends on what you're driving. If you're driving an old split bus, it's going to be kind of hard to do. It's sound like a sore thumb. But you could probably do something like that. But you also can do hotels, and that's what I ended up doing. I just used some of the points that I had, so it worked out great for me. And I didn't stay in the hotels that they did, but they show you where you start and where you end, and they also show the stops along the way, so you can either, sometimes if you break off, you can go and catch up with them at the next stop, freeway it for a while and catch up if you need to. So there's a lot of ways to do this. You notice the fog is pretty heavy right here. A lot of times it is. It's really random. Going through here, I've driven through here and had really extremely bad fog, and I've driven through this area and had like beautiful clear skies in the summer. The summers are, I don't know, I think they're almost worse for San Francisco. When I've been up there in the summer, it seems like it's always really, really cold right at San Francisco City, and then you need a sweatshirt. You're not going to do this all in shorts. If you're from SoCal and you want to go up there, bring some long pants and also some shorts, because you're going to need both. And you'll need a sweatshirt at least. It gets, you guys are really not very climatized. To me, that's not cold. When it's 50 degrees out, that's not cold. All I need is just a sweatshirt, or even in the high 40s. If it's, to me, cold is like, about near freezing, then I need a jacket. And then when it's in like the 20s, then I need a real jacket.
told your friend you're not okay? And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay? Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby, have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong
Mm-hmm.